We are confident of winning the match.
Let's see how this statement made by Veer, the captain of the hockey team, is reported in the media. Both the sentences report what the captain of the hockey team said, but in different ways. The first sentence quotes the exact words that the captain said and shows an example of direct speech. The second sentence conveys what the captain said without using his exact words and is an example of indirect speech. A sentence in direct speech may be changed to indirect speech by making certain changes to the sentence. Let's find out more about direct and indirect speech. Let's take a look at some rules for identifying and using direct and indirect speech. The sentence tells us exactly what Sarah said. It is an example of direct speech. A sentence in direct speech is divided into two parts. The first part names the speaker, Sarah, and includes the verb said. It is called the reporting clause. The second part of the sentence consists of the exact words spoken by Sarah. Let's look at another example. The first part of the sentence, Sunny said, is the reporting clause. The second part consists of what Sunny said and is the reported clause. Here, Sarah told Kim is the reporting clause. In this case, the reporting clause includes Kim, who is the listener. The reporting clause may be placed at the end of the sentence. When the reporting clause is at the end of the sentence, the subject usually comes after the verb. However, when a pronoun such as he or she is used for the speaker, the pronoun usually comes before the verb. Here are some more examples of direct speech. In indirect speech, the sentence states what the speaker has said without quoting the exact words. This sentence, for example, does not state the exact words that Rita has spoken. It is an example of indirect speech. As with direct speech, a sentence in indirect speech is also divided into two parts. The subject and the reporting verb form one part of the sentence known as the reporting clause. The other part of the sentence consists of what the speaker has said. It is called the report. The word that is usually placed between the two parts of the sentence in indirect speech. However, that is not always used in indirect speech. Here are some examples of indirect speech. When changing direct speech into indirect speech, the punctuation marks will change. Let's look at the punctuation marks used in direct speech. A comma is used to separate the two parts of the sentence. Quotation marks are used to enclose the exact words of the speaker. The direct speech begins with a capital letter, and a full stop is required at the end of the sentence. To change this sentence into indirect speech, you remove the quotation marks, replace the comma with that, and keep the full stop at the end of the sentence. Let's look at another example. To change this sentence into indirect speech, remember that you remove the quotation marks, replace the comma, and keep the full stop. When changing direct speech into indirect speech, the tense of the reporting verb must be considered. In this example, the reporting verb says is in the present tense. When you change this sentence to indirect speech, the tense does not change because the reporting verb says is in the present tense. In this sentence, the reporting verb said is in the past tense. When this sentence is changed to indirect speech, the tense will depend on the tense in direct speech. In indirect speech, the present tense will change to the past tense. Let's take a look at some more examples. Click each tab to see how simple, continuous, and perfect tenses in direct speech change in indirect speech when the reporting verb is in the past tense.
Will remain unchanged in two scenarios. If the reported clause states a universal truth, proverb, or saying. If the reported clause states a habit.
Carnivorous animals is a universal truth. So, when converting this statement to indirect speech, the tense does not change. It is not accurate to say that lions were carnivorous animals, as this implies that they are no longer so. Here's another example. The direct speech states a habit that Arjun drinks milk at bedtime. When you change this sentence to indirect speech, the tense does not change because Arjun continues to have the habit of drinking milk. When changing direct speech into indirect speech, personal pronouns and possessive adjectives may change. For example, when you change this sentence in direct speech to indirect speech, the pronoun I will change to she. The subject in direct speech will usually tell you which pronoun to use in indirect speech. Let's look at another example. The pronoun we changes to they in indirect speech. Similarly, in this sentence, the possessive adjective my changes to his in indirect speech. Here's one more example. The possessive adjective our changes to their in indirect speech. In this example, you changes to he in indirect speech because you refers to Sunny. I and my refer to the speaker and do not change in indirect speech. Similarly, here, me does not change in indirect speech. However, we changes to they and your changes to my. When changing direct speech into indirect speech, words describing time and place will change. For example, in this sentence, Kim is referring to a particular shop. In indirect speech, you change this to that. Look at this sentence. Today indicates time. However, we do not know the day on which this sentence is said. So, the word today may no longer be correct in indirect speech. So, the words that day are used instead. Here are some more examples that show how words describing time and place change while converting direct to indirect speech.
Is this conversion clear to all of you?
In this sentence, will is the helping verb. The future tense always changes to the conditional tense in indirect speech. So, you change will to would in indirect speech. Similarly, the helping verb can changes to could in indirect speech. However, helping verbs like could, would, should, might, and ought do not change when converting direct to indirect speech. Here are some examples. When converting indirect speech to direct speech, the punctuation, tense, personal pronouns, words indicating time as well as place, and some helping verbs will change. This sentence, for instance, is an indirect speech.
When you convert this sentence into direct speech, the punctuation and personal pronoun will change. Similarly, when this sentence in indirect speech is converted to direct speech, the punctuation, personal pronoun, tense, helping verb, as well as the word indicating time will change.
Here are some more examples of sentences converted to direct speech. Note that you do not usually convert indirect to direct speech.